my guest is Joe Wirtley. Joe, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Joe, what do you do?
I'm an independent consultant, and I do a lot of programming and some software architecture too, mostly in the .NET space.
And you're working on an interesting project right now. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I've been working with Chef's Catalog, and I originally actually started with them in 2004, and it's an e-commerce site. We originally started in ASP.NET 1.1. We've upgraded through the years, so we're up to 3.5 now. And the thing I've been talking about recently about them is integration and the various third-party things we have integrated into the site to make it work. And a couple examples of those are the commercialware, which is an order processing and fulfillment application.
Okay.
It actually runs on the I-Series. So
I-Series is what?
The AS400.
Oh, okay.
So
I don't know about that AS400 stuff because I'm a young guy.
I really don't know much about it either. Actually,
I'm not saying you're an old guy.
I am an old guy. And I actually worked on the AS400 years ago.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I am. But we integrate with the AS400 mostly through MQ, which is
MQ
kind
series.
of, yes, their version of MSMQ.
Right.
So we send orders over that way, and they have a DB2 database, and we leverage a lot of third-party products because it helps us to focus on developing just the website.
Okay.
And so like commercialware handles a lot of the catalog management and all the rest of that kind of stuff, so we don't have to worry about that. Credit card processing, all that nonsense.
Sure. Yeah. So an e-commerce site is one of those projects that's interesting because it brings together a lot of different technologies, and there's a lot of e-commerce sites out there. So, and they all have to address a lot of similar challenges.
Yes. And that's why there are a lot of third-party products to address these challenges. And actually, that's one of the reasons I want to talk about this topic, because we integrate so many things to make this site work. And I've had some good comments back. I think people don't understand sometimes how many things go into making up that site.
Yeah.
For Chef's Catalog, the other product we use quite extensively since the beginning is originally called iPhrase, and has been purchased by IBM, and now it's called IBM OmniFind Discovery Edition.
That's a much better name.
Yeah, that's what I always
Rolls
say.
off the tongue.
I always say iPhrase, and only because I've done this presentation today can I remember what the IBM name is. Otherwise, I never can.
So what does that product do?
What it does is it helps with search, so in faceted search and navigation. So
What does that phrase mean, faceted search?
So faceted search would be pretty much everybody's been to a commerce site and you get your result items and you have your navigation on the left. Those would be the facets, the navigation facets. So it may be if you're by price, right? So you can say, I want items in this price range, I want items of this color, etc.
Okay, so these are attributes of the items that you can filter on.
Absolutely.
Right.
And for Chef's Catalog, most of the site navigation is actually driven through that iPhrase search engine.
People are drilling down. They'll search once, but then they'll start drilling down into that.
Yes. So even when you go to a category page on that site, we're doing an actual iPhrase search.
Okay.
And pretty much anytime you're looking at multiple items, you're doing an iPhrase search.
Okay. What does that technical interface look like to iPhrase?
That's one of the things I talk about, because actually in a lot of these e-commerce products, there's two ways you can integrate with them usually. There's usually a HTML fragment kind of a way, where it's like the product is just going to return either the HTML fragment or all of the HTML. So in iPhrase, it would be what they originally called their skins, which they would render the whole page in HTML from their engine.
I always thought that was bad.
Well, and that's one choice. The other choice is to do an API. And in case of iPhrase, they have an HTTP-based, SOAP-based API.
Okay.
That is actually what we chose to integrate. And that's one of the things I talk about, and one of the things that has worked well for us is having chosen those APIs over the HTML fragment requests, because over time that gives us a lot more control over the whole process.
So the SOAP will just return a SOAP object, and then you could parse out that object and do with it whatever you want, skin it the way you want to.
Yes, and actually in the iPhrase example, they actually had some .NET code for us even, so a lot of that got abstracted away, which is even nicer.
Sure. Yeah, I like that, and I don't know if you're doing this with your site, but I you don't have to limit it to a web application. You
Right.
can build an interface that
Right.
non-HTML interface. Build
Right.
it for your phone, build it for your
Yes.
Windows desktop, build a Silverlight, whatever.
For chefs, we pretty much are focused on the web. And actually for the chef site, one of the other things we've done recently is they actually want to replace iPhrase with a different search engine, which is one of its competitors, which in our case is Baynote Social Search.
Okay.
And once again, this is a good thing that we chose the API, because now we actually have a version of the site that we can, with a change in the web config, either run iPhrase or Baynote.
Yeah, you have a tightly coupled user interface to this backend service.
Right, exactly.
All right. Let's talk about some of the issues that come up in a e-commerce site. This site's been around for a while. It was
Yes.
in 2004.
Yes.
So how many hits are you talking about? How popular is it?
They can get up to like 5.8 million page views in a month.
Is that an issue at all?
It isn't an issue for us. Honestly, scalability hasn't been as much of an issue. Our issues are more around performance.
Okay.
And we've done a lot of work over the past year to try to address some of those performance issues. One of the things we've been working on is actually doing asynchronous requests in ASP.NET, and which is a little unusual because usually you're doing that to increase scalability.
Okay.
But in our case, our scalability is not really a concern. We're doing it to increase performance because before we have added other things on top of iPhrase. So, for example, we added Baynote recommendations, which is also an HTTP request that we send out.
That's like cross-selling or upselling?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. But now I have an iPhrase request that goes out over HTTP, and I have a Baynote recommendation request that goes out over HTTP. So that's the asynchronous tasks allow us to run the Baynote recommendation request in parallel with the iPhrase request.
Okay, and then it could get essentially twice as fast. It comes back.
Right, exactly. So instead of
Theoretically.
having the half second and half second added together, we get them in parallel. So theoretically, we save a half second
Right.
if it takes that long to do it.
But whatever the slowest one is, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What else are you doing? You mentioned queuing. You're doing some. Is that a performance issue as well, or what's the reason for queuing up some of this stuff?
For us, we do queuing, and the most important aspect of that is with the orders. So when we get an order on the website, we throw it into an MQ queue, and it goes back through to the commercialware system ultimately.
Okay.
And we actually get a response message back because it will actually add some things in, such as maybe they'll get a free item, or it will calculate the shipping. It does all that kind of stuff.
So it does a little bit of the processing, and you'll
Yeah.
always get that synchronously. But then it's
Yes.
queued up to do more of the processing when you send it off to the fulfillment.
Right, so ultimately that'll happen in the commercialware system.
Okay.
The nice thing about having it queued up is we actually do have code in our website so that we can take orders if the commercialware system happens to not be available.
And that's a system that you don't have control over. So that's you can't rely on that yourself. Somebody else is controlling that.
Right, well, it actually is our system, but still, yes, we want to be able to take orders. We don't want anything to stop us from taking orders. So in that case where we don't get a response back, we will calculate some approximate shipping, and we'll tell the user that and display the totals, and we'll let them go ahead and place the order, and then ultimately when the commercialware does come back up, it'll pick up those messages.
Right.
The user will be sent an email with the actual totals and everything else, and it all works out in the end.
It does work out. So there is a little bit of risk in that, right? Like, what if the product's not in stock? What if it's back order? And you
Yes.
told them it'll be 3 days, and it's actually going to be 3 weeks.
Yes.
Would you handle that?
Well, and luckily from my perspective as a web developer, that's all out of my hands. It's all on the commercialware side. So yeah, if commercialware is there and available at the time we send the message to them, we actually get information back right away about inventory availability.
Right.
So we have a mixture of stuff that happens in the site. Some of it happens batch, so like our catalog data, like for example, we have to export it to iPhrase, and that happens in more of a batch mode. So twice a day we send out data to iPhrase for it to index so people can search. But some of the stuff like that inventory availability happens in real time, happens through MQ, and commercialware is owning that.
Okay.
So we do tell people right away if we can. But then even Chef's Catalog, we actually sell on Amazon. in addition to having our own site.
Okay.
So, which means we export our catalog data to them, and we send Amazon our inventory every hour.
Oh.
But, so it could be that even though Commercialware thinks we have inventory, that we
Amazon
may have...
has sold 1 million of them in the last
Exactly.
55 minutes.
Amazon may have sold them out for us, so it's definitely always a possibility it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's a trade-off between high availability versus real-time accuracy.
Yes.
That you're always making. We're a little bit short on time today, so tell me just other issues that the challenges you have with the e-commerce site.
Well, I said we've been trying to increase performance, and we've been doing some caching to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the challenges we have there are things like the iPhrase system, in addition to providing search results, actually provides like HTML portlet information. So little HTML fragments that may be some information about a sale that's going on, for example, that gets displayed on the homepage. And we find there's this natural tension between caching to increase performance and personalization.
Right.
So the business users can personalize by source code, which is kind of the key in our universe. So somebody comes into our site with a source code, which means they clicked on a link in, paid Google advertisement or something.
Okay.
So we know where they came from.
Okay.
They may get a specific advertisement based on that source code. So, which is great, and we may want to. So we want to crash things to increase performance, but at the same time, it's going to differ by source code. So we have to deliver the right banner for every source code that comes in. And unfortunately, it's even more than source code because a lot of these third-party products are very configurable in terms of business rules. They can make up a whole bunch of crazy stuff and return a different HTML portlet on Tuesdays, for people with red
If you
hair.
cache something, you'll get Wednesday's blonde hair.
Exactly. So there's a challenge there. That's one of the big challenges we have in trying to cache and increase that performance. And what we've ended up doing is we just cache a whole bunch of hash a bunch of parameters together and use that as our cache key.
Okay.
So we probably end up creating more copies of individual items than we need to. Okay. But it also gives us the right results.
Right.
For
what are you using to cache? Are you just ASP.NET caching, or are you using something?
We're just doing straight ASP.NET, caching. So nothing exotic
like
there.
Memcache or Velocity like that?
Not yet. You
have an online presence, don't you?
Yes.
What is it?
You can find me pretty much anywhere you search for Wirtley, W-I-R-T-L-E-Y, you'll find me. WirtleyConsulting.com is my site.
Okay.
Joe Wirtley on Twitter.
All right. Joe, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, it was good to be on Technology and Friends.
Well said.